Good morning, my name is Bob Thorne, and here with my colleague Neil Rowcliffe we are going to present to you the new features of e2i. Now during this presentation we'll introduce the headline items, but if you'd like to see a complete list of what's new in this release, then you can do so by simply going to the What's New option on your splash screen. Now if your software is already installed you don't have to reinstall it. If I just show you how you can do this, if you go to the runme.hta on your CD or your install CD, then you will see you get the splash screen come up. If you select the What's New, you will be presented with a complete list. And you can see here that you can actually go back to previous releases as well. So if we select this list here, you'll see that you will get a much more detailed list of what's new in this release. As you can see, there's a lot to get through on this list, so during this presentation we won't be able to go into detail on all of the new features, but we'll pick out some of the highlights and give you some more detail. e2i works order nesting. Now this is a brand new feature in this release, and Neil will take you through this at the end of my part of the presentation. Database management. Now managing your database is very important, so in this release of software we've improved the way we indicate the status of the database. So if we look at closer on my particular database, you can see that my active database is indicated as red, which says that this database requires a backup. Following a backup, you can see that the database changes to yellow, so the active database there with the blue tick says this database has been backed up. So let me explain the rest of the icons. So a yellow icon indicates that the database is up to date and is on your system but is not currently active. The blue tick against the yellow icon says that this is the active database and it is up to date. A yellow icon with an exclamation says that the database is on your system but is of the wrong version, so needs updating to the current version of software. Yellow database with exclamation and tick says this is your active database, it's up to date, but it's the wrong version, so again you need to update the version. A red icon indicates that the database is present but has not been recently backed up. A red icon with a tick says this is your active database, again it requires a backup. A red database with an exclamation says it's not been backed up and it's of the wrong version. And finally, a red database with exclamation and tick. Now this is the worst case scenario. It's your currently active database, it's of the wrong version and it hasn't been recently backed up. So it's very important that you back up your database. Now as you can see here, we do supply tools for you to back up your database, but it is your responsibility to ensure that this happens. So what I thought I'd do, just as a little refresher, is show you where in e2i you can actually initiate a backup and how you can set one up to happen automatically. So let me just show you via this little video. So if I go into all programs, Radan software e2i, under my database management, I can go in and see the current status of my database. Now you can see here I've got 3 databases. Currently active one is up to date and has been backed up. But if I just hit the backup option and just run this, you'll see that it's very quick and easy to back up your database. So that's now backed up. What you can do though, which is very important, is create a scheduled task so your database will be backed up automatically, maybe once a week, once a month, whichever. But we highly recommend you keep your databases up to date. File attachments. Previously we introduced the ability to attach files to records and optionally have them printed with reports. For example, a file attached to a part can be printed with every root card making that part. In this release we've extended this to allow attached files to other elements within e2i to be printed. Again, let me just show you how to set this up. So if I go into e2i System Administration, under System and Form Reports, I will be presented with a list of the reports associated with each element of e2i. So in this case, I'm going to go for root card. So you can see the root card reports I've got. So by simply selecting the tick box at the end, any files attached to these reports will be printed automatically when the report is printed. So let me just go into e2i proper. I'm going to select a root card, and under reports, if I select the appropriate report, you'll see that I now have a tick box which says that any files attached to this report will be printed when I print this report. You can of course untick this box and just print the report itself. You can see here the complete list of all the new features, and as I said earlier, I can't really go through all of these, so I've picked out a few of the ones that I know customers have asked about. So a new system preference has been added, allowing the administrator to set the part category that should be used by default when the user creates a new part. If the user manually sets a root card to complete, a note is automatically added to record who did it and when. When a user prints a super root card, the status of the child root card is also updated. It is now possible to use a row copy function in the stock locations window. The columns in the items on a delivery note have been rearranged to make them more logical. So here's the complete list. As you can see, there's a lot that's gone into this release. Some of them are small changes, some of them are improvements, some of them are bug fixes. But what we've tried to do is cover off all of the things that customers have reported to us or requested from us. If yours isn't in here, then we apologise, and hopefully we can get to that in the next release. But please have a look through this, and hopefully you'll find that there's something there for everyone. Okay, well that's all I've got time for. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Neil Rowcliffe, who's the product manager for Works Order Nesting, and he's going to explain exactly what this is.
Hello, my name is Neil Rowcliffe and I'm going to show you the new Works Order Nester system for e2i. Works Order Nester is a bridge between the e2i system, which knows what parts need to be made and how many of them you need, and the CAD/CAM system, which knows how to make them. The source information is in e2i in the form of root cards. Each root card is for a particular part and can be related back to a contract, but most importantly for the Works Order Nesting system, we want new status root cards. Anything else is already in production, so we don't want to be handling that in this system. So we've seen the source information. Let's open up the Works Order Nester interface and have a quick look at it. On the right hand side there's a settings panel. This panel is pinned at the moment. You can unpin it to collapse it away, bring it back and pin it back into place. Same with the Edit Parts panel. At the bottom you're looking at the Settings tab already, but there's a Recent Projects tab so you can get access to projects that you've been working on recently. Double click, pops it open. Each project gets its own tab, so to get a new one, click on the plus sign and then go to New Open Project and give it a name. The file location can be anywhere on your network, but there is a default on the Settings tab. As soon as you start a new project, the Import Parts window opens to help you get some parts into your project. All this information is taken from the new status root cards that we saw earlier, so you can see the contract number data is all populated from them. You can sort this display by clicking on the column headers, click again to do a descending sort, and you can also do sorting and grouping. So if I drag the material column header up into the top section, you can see it's all grouped by the material. You can multi-level group, so bring thickness up and you can see the parts are all separated out by their thickness. You can isolate parts by any criteria on screen, so contract number, find all the parts for a given contract number, or even due date, find all the parts for a given due date. So all those there are due on the 25th of March. The part with the red text there has no symbol reference file in it, so it doesn't have a reference back to a Radan symbol. You can still add it to the project, but you will need to fix that error before you can carry on and complete your nest. Okay, let's carry on and add some parts. I'll just choose a few from the list due on the 25th. And you can see they've been added into the project in the background. The Import Parts window stays open to allow you to add some more if you want to, but in this case we won't. Now we have parts added to the project, the next thing we'll have a look at is the settings. So clicking the Settings tab at the bottom gets you back to the Settings pane, and you can see the information there. So the default save location for the projects is there. And you've got some various other options to have a directory per project. But we've also got the theme. I'm looking at the theme in Metro Blue at the moment. If I switch to another theme, you can see the whole interface changes. So you can choose the theme you like. I quite like the Windows 7 one, so I'll stick with that. But everybody has their own tastes. There's a tab at the top. I'm just going to close the one I opened earlier, the recent project I opened, and then we'll go through the rest of these settings. Just choose the machine tool and set a whole bunch of other settings in here. Most of these settings will disappear. We've decided that instead of having individual settings all the way through every time you run the project, we'll introduce a nest project template so that you can choose a template of settings and make the appropriate edits in the CAD/CAM system rather than here. There's no point in trying to synchronize all this data. Back to the parts display. In here you can do the same sort of sorting and grouping as we've seen before. Again, just to do a second level sort, hold down the shift key and click the column header, click it again to do a descender. You can also do grouping, so due date, I can see all the information, they were all for the same due date. You can also bring contracts in so you can see what contracts are affected by this particular project. It's possible to add extras on, so for this part 23 were required from the root card, but I can say to the nester allow overproduction by 50 parts. I can't change the required field, that's set by the root card information. That needs to be made, but the extras are optional. I can also choose to upgrade the material if you're making a lot of a higher grade material and you're allowed to upgrade the material. On this part you can do. Next we need to tell the project what sheets materials it can use to nest on. So we go to the Sheets button, and I'll just change this display to group by material and thickness. It's automatically selected the correct or the matching materials from the e2i system to match the parts that are being made. So you can see that I've got 3 different 2mm galves, 3 different 3mm galves, and SS3042B, I've got 3 of those as well. It is possible, if I want to remove one of those sheets. So if I say I don't want to nest on one of these materials, right click it, delete sheets, and it goes. Now it's time to do the fun part of the job, and that's creating the nests. A single click in here starts the nester running with all the information that we've prepared. It now does its thing, it's organizing all those parts onto nests as it sees fit, and when it finishes I'll be able to click the View in Radan button to see the nests it has created. So there's the project, 5 nests. Open up each nest and you can see not very good nests for my little demo here, but you can see what it's done. Remnants can be set, so the remnants can be saved away. But that's it. You can make changes, you can add parts. If you do that, when you close that down, go to the project and refresh the project. That will update all the information, so you can see the quantity that I was required to make from my root cards and the nested quantity. If I just drag those closer, you can see the 50 extras, the results of the 50 extras on that top one. Next and final job is to create the super root card back in e2i. But before I do that, I'll just show you that in e2i, before the project has been made, root card number 1041 there, if we have a look at that, you'll see that in e2i it's marked as nested. There are no changes allowed on this e2i root card, and that's because it's active in Works Order Nester. You can't make changes in here because it's in progress, things are happening with it somewhere else. So let's come back to Works Order Nester, and I will click the Create Super Root button. So that is taking all of that project information and creating a super root card in e2i from it. Project has been approved and super root 53 has been created. Approved means that no further changes are allowed in this interface. It's been approved, it will be made. Back in e2i, if I open up the super root card, number 53, you'll see that it's got all the information from the project. So I've got 5 operation sequences, probably best to look at it on the report. So 1 for each nest. So as the operator punches or lasers each nest, he scans on and off of the relevant root card for the nest, and that captures the time and passes all that data back down to the root cards. This example, number 12, you can see it's making parts for 2 different root cards. The time captured against that barcode will be split amongst those 2 root cards. Final job, issue it, save that away, and when we look at the root card list, we'll see that the affected root cards are now issued and they're ready for production.